Hello, I am Max and you're watching Cool Stuff in Weird Cars. And in today's video, as the title suggests, the LS400 is leaving my fleet of cars. So, you've already seen the videos of me showing off my new, to me, Toyota Celsior that I just bought, and that is pretty much a direct replacement for this car. If you don't know, this is my 1994 Lexus LS400. I've had it for a little over 2 years now, put about 25,000 miles on it, 24 and a half. And it's been a fantastic car, and I've really enjoyed it. I've daily driven it for the entire time as well. I drove it through rush hour traffic for 9 months, I think. Day after day after day, you know, 25 or 50 miles a day, by the way, of rush hour traffic. And it's still just about perfect. I hear a very slight exhaust tick, and that's about it. So we're gonna go over my 2 years of experience with this car, what I think of it, and just general stuff that you would expect from a I'm selling this car video. So let's start off with the history. So I bought this car a little over 2 years ago, and then as I was looking at it, I did a Carfax on it, and there was nothing about a timing belt change, which this car had 151,000 miles on it when I bought it. So I was like, well, crap, I literally bought this car, and I'm going to be driving to Ohio, which is I think it was like 7.5 hours away, up northern Ohio that I went to. And I was like, well, I need to get this done before I go on this trip. And, you know, I drive 1,500 miles and the timing belt breaks or the water pump goes out or something. So I had that done at the Toyota dealership. Oh, by the way, I bought this car for $2,200 or $2,300 when I bought it. So you can keep that in mind. And so I actually drove it back home from Kansas City too. I almost forgot about that. I drove it from Kansas City to St. Louis right when I bought it, without any issues. The tires were bald, and the car had definitely seen some better days before I got it. But anyways, onto the trip. So I took this trip. I spent $1,000 on time belt change. Took the trip. Everything went fine except for the fact that I hit a deer with the underside of the car somewhere in rural Ohio. That was fun. You know, the car literally felt like it hopped whenever I hit this deer. And there's a plastic piece that goes on the bottom of the front bumper that is still not attached to this day because I haven't gotten around to it. So I drove to Ohio, drove home. Everything was fine other than deer, but everything was fine with the car still. So I proceeded to then, actually I got laid off from my job right when I bought this car. That was cool, at the car dealership. So then I started working at Walmart, started driving it daily there, which was only like 6 miles away. But it was an interesting drive because it was all just curvy, extremely curvy road. And this car, if you don't know about Lexus LS400s, these cars aren't really sports cars. They like to roll, they like to, definitely they're not very planted in corners. But it wasn't bad. It was worse when I drove my truck. That was very fun times driving down that road. But did that, and then after I left Walmart, I got a job at a place way up north, and actually in the northwest corner of St. Louis County. And if you're from St. Louis, I was driving Highway 270, pretty much the entirety of Highway 270 from the south up north, every day at 7 a.m. and at 4:30 p.m. So there's where all the rush hour miles came in, and that's where this car got the most of its miles that I drove it. I also, before that, I drove it to Atlanta, Georgia for Formula Drift. There's a good video on my channel of that, or actually 2 videos, so that was fun. And I drove it, you know, halfway across the state of Missouri. I drove it down to Springfield, Missouri once. I've drove it to Chicago once, I think, yeah. If you want to watch Shooting Cars YouTube channel, he did a review on this thing back in the day when I drove it up there. And that's the majority of the big trips I've taken in it. I did not drive this car to New York City, and I also didn't drive it to Richmond, Virginia, where I got the Celsior, so didn't get the longest of the trips. The truck's gotten those, and surprisingly, it's had 0 problems. Of course, that's a knock on wood grain thing, but it's had literally 0 problems. But we're not talking about that in this video. We're talking about this car. So Other random things that have happened over my ownership of this car: the fuel gauge stopped working, which was great. It kind of works. It goes up to a quarter of a tank, or an eighth of a tank it's at right now, just after I got gas today. And really, I mean, like, the brake lights went out, of course, as I showed in that one video where I replaced them with LEDs. The radio still works fine, the AC works fine, the heat works fine. There's not really much that's really changed with this thing. All the windows still work, the sunroof still works. It's a very solid car. It's definitely lived up to the hype that people have put around these cars with reliability and everything. Like, I couldn't have asked for much of a better car. Sure, I did have to do the timing belt. Well, I didn't have to do the timing belt, considering it had actually been done at 131,000 miles, but the Carfax didn't show that until later. So it's been done twice in, 176,000 miles, which isn't bad at all. It's had the rear wheel bearing done, the left rear wheel bearing, because it went out, as I showed in the video also. Other than that, those are the two big expenses I've done to this car, besides tires. But every car needs tires, and also every car needs brakes, which I've done, the front brakes at least. And that's it. I've done spark plugs as well, but again, every car is going to need spark plugs after 176,000 miles. So in total on repairs, not including tires, I've probably spent, I spent $1,000 each on the timing belt and the rear wheel bearing, because I did them at the dealer. I couldn't quite get them done at my house, so decided to just take it in the dealer, have them do it. And that's it. Like, no other really real repairs I've done to it, other than, like the simple stuff I said. So I'm totally into this car at about $4,500, which isn't bad at all for a car that I could literally just drive to California and back right now and probably be perfectly fine. It runs great, it still drives great, it's still quiet in here, as you can tell, although the Celsior is a lot quieter, as I will show in future videos. That thing is incredibly quiet on the inside. But obviously it has less than a third of the miles that this thing has, so it's understandable that this thing's a little louder. But it's still just as smooth as it was. The steering, the front end's perfectly fine. I have no problems with the steering. The power steering has leaked the entire time I've owned this car. I've just added stuff to it and it's been perfectly fine. There's not a whole lot else I can really mention, because it's just worked. And if you're asking the question if you should buy one of these cars, if you're interested in them, and also if you find one that doesn't have any serious problems, like I said, the wheel bearing, or any kind of drivability problems, because with old age and with miles, all cars will break things, whether it be suspension components or wheel bearings or whatever. So if the car has none of those, and it's, they're asking like $2,500 or something for it, $3,000, I would say definitely go for it. Speaking of which, I think these cars have also went up in value since I bought this one, because like most of them I see are like $3,500, $4,000 for the same condition as I bought this one in. So yeah, it's actually kind of cool that it's actually went up in value. It's the only car that I've owned that's actually went up in value since I got it. And yeah, I would say definitely do a little bit of research. Try and see if the timing belt's been done, and make sure if you drive it that it's smooth and doesn't make any grinding noises or anything. Also make sure the transmission shift's fine, because I know transmissions, they usually work really fine in these, but there are some that have transmission issues, so definitely pay attention to how it shifts and stuff. But that's another thing, I've never touched a transmission in this thing, never had to deal with anything wrong with it. It's never felt like it's slipping, it's never shifted well. It doesn't like going from second to first while you're moving. That's the only thing I will say about the transmission on this car. But otherwise, it's been perfect. But the interior's held up well. This driver's seat, of course, is still ripped, and it's still not exactly very soft, to say the least. So other than that, I've had no real problems with this car, and definitely buy one. I would definitely recommend to buy one. And that's about it. I mean, if you guys have any more questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. I will be happy to answer anything and everything that you may have to ask about this car. And otherwise, I'm about to go take some pictures of this thing, and I'm about to list it on Facebook. So it's been a great car. Hope you guys aren't too sad about seeing it go. I know I am a little sad because this car has been extremely faithful to me. Never left me stranded or anything, so it'll definitely be missed, but we got the Celsior, so that should be pretty good too. So thank you all so much for watching this video, and hope you're excited for more Celsior content and other various things that I get my hands into. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here. See ya.